lifestyle show, the mecca of all things liberty. Gerald Celente is an American trend forecaster, publisher of the TrendsJournal. He's a business consultant and author who makes predictions about global financial markets and other events of historical importance. Celente has described himself as a political atheist and a citizen of the world. He has appeared as a guest on many media outlets, including Oprah, The Today Show, Good Morning America, CBS Morning News, Glenn Beck, NBC Nightly News, Alex Jones, Coast to Coast AM, and Russia Today. Welcome to the show, sir. For those of my listeners that do not know who you are, could you give them a list of events that you have predicted?
Well, from the 1987 stock market crash to the coining the terms clean food and the whole organic movement, to bottled water and gourmet coffee, to the fall of the Soviet Union, I coined the term the Panic of '08 back in 2007. We knew it was going to come and told TrendsJournal readers. And gold prices. I mean, you go to our webpage, TrendsJournal.com, you see all the forecasts we've made there. And we call the bottom of gold at $275 an ounce, over a decade ago. So, there's a number of them. We don't get them all right, of course,
Well, of course, you can't be right all the time. But that sounds a lot like me. I've made a pretty good name for myself being able to predict things. And a lot of your predictions, I have to thank you personally from me to you, because there are a lot of things that you have done that have made me a very well-to-do young man.
Well, good. I'm happy to hear that, because that's what our work is about. It's not about us. Our motto of the TrendsJournal is think for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
not enough of that going on.
Yep, and when everyone reaches the highest potential that they have, then everything changes, and that's what the work is really about.
All right, now let's talk about the Boston Marathon bombing this past week. What are your thoughts on that? I'm guessing you're a Yankees fan like I am, so let's keep the Sox out of it.
It's just another tragedy, and however it falls out. I mean, we have a country of 316 million people, and there's always lunatics running around. And then, when you talk about bombings, I mean, the same day that the bomb went off in Boston, 8 bombs went off in Baghdad, in Iraq rather. 55 people were killed. Another one in India. So it's a world of several billion people, and things are going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the stupidity to think that the police are going to protect us from everything and every aspect in the government, it's just pure stupidity in my mind.
Oh yeah, no, I believe you're absolutely right. I feel the exact same way, sir. It's a tragedy, but there's a lot of tragedies going on. Not to minimize what's going on in Boston, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff going on that people really don't get any idea of what's going on in the world, simply because the news outlets only care about certain things. Now, this leads me to another question that I have. Do you believe the government had anything to do with this?
Oh, I don't know. I would say, from my gut reaction, no. I wouldn't. I mean, I could pin a lot on the government. In other words, I like to do things that I know that I can nail them with. For example, how about Saddam Hussein having them weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al Qaeda?
Yeah.
Let's call them on the real lies that you have right in front of them, and no one calls them out on them.
Yeah.
I want to know, how come there are no war crime tribunals to find out who knew what when? After we spent $1 trillion, sacrificed the lives of 5,000 of our men and their minds and limbs of hundreds of thousands of more, killed an estimated several 100,000 people, and nobody's called up on this.
Yeah, I've tried to make a good stand on this, but not a lot of people want to hear that, because they're addicted to biased news outlets that don't want to say anything, because they have the people that are in their pockets. They're in pockets of people that are politicians. They're in the pockets of other people, and so on and so forth. That makes it pretty impossible for anybody to put honest news out there and make any good ratings, or not have anything pulled as far as their money goes for publicity or donations and things like that.
I've been on, as you mentioned, I've been on just virtually every show out there. I mean, you name the person, I've been on the show, and very, very few of them I respect. I mean, there are some real good people. Most of them are lightweights. and they're just ego or agenda driven. But one guy, I know, and we go out to dinner, and he'd say to me, I said, I'm envious of you. He said, you're not beholden to anyone. You can say what you want to say. And then he went on to tell me stories about this one and that one, that I promised not to repeat, about when he said something and who called him up, who called his boss up and told him to back off. And, I know this goes on all the time, but that's what the thing is with us. We're beholden to no one. We don't have any advertisers in the Trends Journal. The new edition's coming out tomorrow, and it's 40 pages, no advertising. So we're not beholden to anyone. Nobody pays us to say anything. And it's a tragedy, because the big tragedy is how the politicians manipulate the news to their benefit, and how they're going to manipulate this incident. We need more surveillance cameras. See, I told you they work.
Oh, yeah.
And just like with this whole thing now about gun control, and the big question, of course, in this whole gun control debate is, what do they want to do?
Now, do you think TSA is going to take to the streets after this?
Well, they already are. You have TSA, where Homeland Security. You have them. You're driving around, 100 miles from the borders in New York or any of the border states, and they're around stopping you. So this is just going to keep expanding it. They use fear and hysteria anytime they need for any purpose, just like I'm talking about the gun control. What are they talking about? Background checks. Okay, you want to do background checks? How is that going to stop this kid? Was this kid whacked out on psychotropic drugs like most of the other ones before him? How come we can't find out? How come you won't tell us? I'll tell you why you won't tell us. Because every damn ad on CNN, CNBC, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, you name it, watch the news. There's one drug ad after another.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I have a hard time with the gun control thing. I have a hard time with a lot of different issues, and I can talk myself through them. The gun control issue in particular, it doesn't take me very long to rationalize this one, because it's complete nonsense. Oh. Now they shot it down this past week, but they're going to make another run at it. This is just round one. There'll be round 2, 3, 4, 5, and they'll just keep on going until they finally get what they want, until there's finally a tragedy that they can capitalize enough on to actually make a good run at this. And I think they really thought, Nancy Pelosi and Feinstein and Barack Obama and all these people, they thought that Newtown, that was their ticket, and it wasn't. And I think they have a bone to pick now, and they're just waiting for the next chance.
Well, I agree, and that's what I'm saying. They'll use any incident to their favor. And President Obama came out, yesterday, and said he wants to get their hands out of the mentally unstable. Let's start with the Pentagon. I'm serious. You want to talk about a bunch of unstable cats, man?
Yeah.
Hey, let's start another war and lose one. These guys haven't won a war since World War II.
Yeah.
They sacrificed how many hundreds of thousands of men? 58,000 died in Vietnam. Every friend that I have that went there is whacked out. 250,000 of them committed suicide. Hey, you did a great job in Iraq. Beautiful, beautiful going-ons over there in Afghanistan. Yeah, I remember the line. I remember that from that little weasel Petraeus. Yeah, impressive progress. Yeah, impressive progress with the chick you were hitting on.
Yeah, no kidding.
So this is where,
in his defense, she was much better looking than his wife.
Well, look, you want to talk about getting him out of the hands of the mentally insane. We have Obama putting his hand on the trigger every Tuesday, Terror Tuesday, to see who they're going to wipe out with a drone. No name, no nothing, just a face.
Yeah. The drone strikes, that's something that's one of those things, just like the gun control thing. I don't have to go too far to talk myself through this, where I go, this just doesn't make sense. And now, of course, we're talking about having them here on American soil. And they say, well, you can't wage war against Americans on the soil. Well, you don't have to say war to declare war. You can pretty much do as you please until you finally have an uprising.
Exactly, and that's what's going on, because the world economies are in collapse. I've been trading gold, by the way. My first buy of gold was in 1978 at $187.50 an ounce. And I was there when the first takedown happened in January of 1980. Matter of fact, I bought gold at the highest point during that trading day at $875 an ounce. And I remember the emotion. I was a young guy, but I still remember the emotion, the panic. This is a totally different situation now. Back then, 1980, there was no Russia. It was the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm.
China? But then nobody knew anything about China other than there was this guy Mao. And I don't know if he was still dead or alive. India? Well, anybody knew about India was maybe Gandhi. There was no there was no globalization. There were no global markets. The markets were so thinly traded back then. The Hunt brothers could control the silver markets. This is a totally different issue right now. People ask me about gold. I'm in it for the long term. Why would I want to buy paper money that's being debased on a daily basis with stimulus, quantitative easing, ongoing monetary transactions, whatever you want to call them, name the country. So it's a very different situation. And I'm saying this because I believe that the world is going on through an economic meltdown. And you don't have to listen to me. All you have to do is look at the facts. You have a recession going on in Europe that's as bad as it's the worst since the Great Depression, and there is depression. There's depression in Spain. There's depression in Greece. You're looking at almost 30% unemployment rates in both those countries. Over 50% unemployment rates among the youth.
I think it's going to get worse here before it gets better. Still, the numbers are fluctuating, but I think it stands to get pretty ugly around here. We're talking to Gerald Celente. Gerald, tell me a little bit more about this. With what we have going on in America, compare that to what had gone on in Greece and in Spain, places like that in Europe.
Well, what the only difference is they don't have the opportunity over there to print all their money as we do here. I mean, that's the only difference.
Sure.
So we're just keeping it going by they keep printing money. And the only reason why, to me, gold prices haven't gone higher is because they're all doing the same thing, debasing their currencies.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, you look what's going on now in Japan. Japan has devalued the yen nearly 20% since this new guy, Abe, got in December. I mean, this is not a long time for a 20% drop. So now if you're Japanese, so it's not as though there's inflation going on. The price of oil, for example, is going down. But not if you're Japanese because the value of your yen just went down. And you import a lot of oil. So guess what? It's going to cost you more yen to buy that oil. So it's a debasement of the currency more than an inflation. So it's going on, and we're going to see the same thing happen in Greece and Spain and Italy and Portugal and Ireland happening to the United States.
Now, why don't more people see this going on in America? Why do we have the blinders on here? I mean, my eyes are wide open. It seems like yours are too. And a lot of my fans, a lot of Mohawk Nation out there, they are the same way. Their eyes are open. What is it going to take for us to get people to finally understand this?
This is the... It's funny you mentioned that. I mentioned the TrendsJournal is going out tomorrow. The major story is the I don't want to hear it trend.
Okay.
And why so many people don't want to hear it. I don't know the answer. But to me it is? I have a line. Conservatives believe and liberals lie.
Okay.
And I mean that in the sense that you get these really arch conservatives, that just, they don't know the facts, but we got to kill all the Muslims over there before they come over here. That kind of stupidity.
Yeah.
They believe it. They actually believe it.
Oh, yeah, I know. I get these people on my Twitter and my Facebook feed all the time talking to me, and I just can't. I have to really bite my tongue because I try not to respond to people unless they're just completely way off base, but they have some sort of reasoning. And there's some people you can just tell by the way they said something that they're lost.
Right.
What point do you have in talking to this person?
So they actually believe it. They're lost. Liberals lie because liberals, they're intelligent, a lot of them, to know that they're being conned by the commander-in-chief. Hey, I got one for you, Tony.
All right, let's hear it.
We're going to close Guantanamo. I promise you during my election campaign, and here's my first day in office, and in 1 year it's going to be closed. Hey, he didn't close it.
No.
They're beating the hell out of those prisoners. Well, he only could do so much. Hey, wait a minute. Didn't this cat win the Nobel Peace Prize? Why did he send 33,000 more troops into Afghanistan? Well, that's a war of necessity. Wait a minute, you're a liberal. Yeah, but it's different. I'll lie to myself because I got conned by this cat. Hey, wait a minute. They're going into Libya now. Oh, Muammar Gaddafi's a bad man.
Yeah.
Hey, how about the National Defense Authorization Act?
Yeah, let's talk about that briefly. We have very little time left. But
how about
that.
strip searching if you get caught, if you go to jail for any reason? And the Obama administration supported it, and the Supreme Court voted it in. So what I'm saying, Tony, is they know the truth. To answer your question, why won't more people wake up? Because they don't have the courage to admit that they've been conned. They're not men or women. They're little weasels. And that's why we don't have a better future as I see it.
Gerald Celente, thank you for coming on the show. Tell people where they can find you and where they can find the Trends Journal.
Oh, TrendsJournal.com, TrendsJournal.com, and thanks so much for having me on, and all the best, and congratulations for the great work you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. You too. Thank you very much.